Alright. So you're gonna hear some crows going crazy in the background. And we're I don't know, we're a third of the way down Little Lake or something. And we got Sarah out trying to do fly fishing gear some more. And she's on the lake. I'm sitting here and I hear this like over top of us. I look up. We thought it was a drone or something. And way up there, I see what looks like it might have been a drone. And just looked kind of weird. And it was falling. But it's not spinning, just gently falling. I look close, and it was actually a bird of prey with a crow in its talons, and he killed that thing way up there where the crow looked like it was that big, glommed onto it, and they were falling, and then he got his good grip, and then he went straight in towards the mountain, which would have been the timber, to go eat it. And all the other crows were going completely apeshit. It was absolutely crazy, 1 in a million to see. Anyway, there goes the token helicopter, of course. Every time hit record, helicopter flies over me. But anyway, so that was insane. And of course I'm in the lake and the camera's on the tripod. And that would have been one hell of a something to film that and share that with everybody here, right? Bird of prey taking down a crow midair, and what looked like, it was way up there in the nosebleed section. Very cool. 1 in a million, of course. Now what do we got? I'll share one here. Hey Steve, my name's Josh. I'm 44 from San Diego, California. I'm a big fan of the outdoors and wilderness. Not much of a hunter, but I love trout fishing. And I'm up in different parts of the Sierras every summer. My girlfriend and I and 2 other friends went car camping in the Sequoia's Kings Canyon National Park, mountains east of Fresno, California, around September 2016. I've always known of the Bigfoot legend. I've always thought it could be possible, but I'm a skeptic. I'm a skeptic about everything because I think everything's a scam these days. No doubt. That's a sad reality, isn't it? I was always taught to believe nothing of what I hear and half of what I see, and this mantra has saved me from getting effed a few times in life. Yeah, I always say just go with your gut. But at the same time, I think anything is possible. Anyway, we secured a campsite in a remote area of the campground where we're in. Not many people were in this particular part of the campground because a lot of surrounding area had burned some. We didn't really care because we weren't really hanging around the camp as we were hiking most of the time and checking out the park. The second night there, we were sitting around the fire telling stories and talking, and I bring up Sasquatch and that Finding Bigfoot show, and my girlfriend and I started whooping as loud as we could like Bobo does. I don't like that show, by the way. My girlfriend and I watched it a few times and never was convinced by anything they did, but I picked up on the yells and whoops. So a couple hours later, we got in our tents, but my girlfriend was uneasy about sleeping in a tent because of a black bear in the area, as it was her first time camping and sleeping in a tent. On top of this, she's a very light sleeper, opposite of me as I sleep like a rock. Around 2 a.m., she wakes me up and says she can hear footsteps out in the trees. I listen, and I hear footsteps and twigs cracking. I think it's maybe a bear checking stuff out. With all her stuff, I think it's a bear checking our stuff out, but all her stuff was put away in bear boxes. Or maybe someone walking around the campsite in the middle of the night, which I don't like either. We keep listening to the steps, and then all of a sudden the sound of a tree creaking and cracking, and then a crash kaboom. A big tree falls over near our site. It sounded very close, like within 100 feet of us. Not windy at all either. My buddy and his wife yells at me, "Did you hear that?" I say, "Yep, that was a big tree falling over." We were tripping out. I thought to myself, no effing way. We didn't sleep that well that night because she was scared and I was a little uneasy. Not thinking it was Bigfoot, but a bear maybe, or someone messing around. I kept assuring her black bear in the Sierras or chicken will run away. Just throw a rock or a pine cone at them. I told her that the fallen tree was a dead, burned-up sequoia. They fall over all the time. She wasn't convinced. The footsteps bothered her. So the next morning I got up early around sun to relieve myself, and I noticed next to our campsite is a 10-foot circle of 10 to 12-inch rocks with a weird design. A couple little stacks of rocks around the circle. I started tripping out harder. I tell my buddy, who's still in the Marines at that time, about the rocks, and he laughs. It wasn't us, he says, and I don't remember those rocks being here yesterday. I didn't either. I would think we'd hear someone put those rocks there, not far from our tents, maybe 50 feet. I looked for shoe prints around the rocks, but found nothing but our own and pine needles and wood chips. I didn't want my girlfriend to be scared of the great outdoors in my first attempt in breaking her in, but this is pretty damn weird. The footsteps and the tree falling over can be explained, but the rock circle next to our camp is what weirded me out. Maybe we called one in with our loud yells and whoops climbing around the campfire. Recently I've heard guys in Sasquatch Chronicles podcast talk about how people should not do that because you might regret it. Haha. After we got home, I googled Sequoia's Bigfoot sightings, and lo and behold, I saw there have been a few in the area. Since then, I've scoured the internet looking for info on this thing, and that is how I found your channel, and a couple other good podcasts about the subject. Who knows? I'm not sure what to believe anymore, but that night was strange. Well, there you go. I got a funny feeling you know what to believe, because you went out of your way to email me, and you went out of your way to email me and the people here that watch everybody shares, right? And obviously, if you keep looking through all the content here on my channel, you are going to see that these things happen all the time, and to thousands of people around the planet. Nobody's connected. Nobody plans sharing these stories or tells each other what they're about to do as a prank. It's just not happening. I know you don't know who I am, you don't know me as a human being, but I would look you square in the eye and assure you that these things are real, because unfortunately I've seen them. It wasn't my choice. I don't crave seeing them again, and I go looking for them. But one thing's for certain is there is a shit pile more people out in the world that have seen them and haven't had the guts to come forward and share their experience yet. But they are rapidly now, right? Because unfortunately, like this show that you mentioned, the majority of the places that are supposed to be safe for people to share are actually absolute clown shows, and they do the opposite of actually helping anybody, right? So, but thanks for sending that email in, man. I appreciate it. I'm sure everybody else does as well. And I'll see if I can get one more out here. So we've got to get back to fishing. Hello, Steve, and greetings from the States. My name is Shay Willis, and I live right smack dab in the geographic center of Virginia. Feel free to use my name and share my story if you are so inclined. I'm a 53-year-old woman who has spent her entire life deeply connected to the woods and waters. I'm also intensely intuitive, commonly called clairsentient, and spend every available moment actively working with the natural energies around me and teaching others how to do the same. That's good. That is really good that you're teaching people to do that. I would like to share an important point with the viewers. My abilities are not unique. Everyone carries the same potential. The only difference between me and some others is the choice that I made to protect and develop my abilities over the course of my lifetime. And this decision has served me well, allowing me to reach my current level of understanding about what most people would call the woo side of things. The following information is based on my own personal experiences. I don't work for any of the three-letter agencies, nor do I even have a college degree. I shun the first world things like social media, the news, politics, and organized religion because they, and all associated groups and organizations, governments, are structured in a way that they very effectively deaden and then strip away these natural abilities that we all possess. Fully agreed. We become manageable, which is exactly the desired outcome. At our core, we are very powerful, creative beings, and since powerful individuals are a threat to organized structure, we must be dumbed down in order for the status quo to remain intact. If we were to rise to our full potential as collective, the handful of egocentric dirtbags and organizations who have been elevated to the status of elite and powerful, those who control the societal norms and narratives, would fall, and they would fall very quickly. Oh my God, would they ever fall quickly? There would be a period of chaos, which is a necessary and natural part of any transition or growth. It is critical to understand that no one ever learned a single lesson about being content and happy. Discontent hardship, and difficulty are our teachers. If we are complacent, we are stagnant. If we embrace difficulty, we are in growth. It is the natural order of things. The extreme difficulty and chaos of the time we're in right now is a huge signpost for change, and the amazing work that you are doing through your channel compromises at least some of the driving force of that change. You are right on track, and I stand among the many who are deeply grateful for your effort on unrelenting courage. My experiences with that one might call the paranormal, span across the whole of my lifetime. But it was not until the past few years that these experiences included deliberate interactions with the big people. Yes, I'm one of those crazy folks who actively seek them out, and there's a logical reason for that. I knew they didn't all behave the same way, so I started trying to find out why. Here's what I learned. There are basically 3 different variations or types of them. Type 1 are very physical creatures, exhibiting behaviors much like that of most humans. They're territorial, tend to focus on physical needs, and get pissed when you invade their space. They tend to make their home in remote wooded areas. They tend to be violent, are carnivorous, and yes, some of them may even eat people, which makes them cannibalistic on occasion. Given their physical existence, they tend to smell bad, which is why some Sasquatch reports include this fact. They generally do not have the ability to pull disappearing acts, pop in and out of physical world, or communicate telepathically. Type 2 are much more evolved. They are generally not violent, although they will pitch a bitch if you get too close and they don't want you there. They will make a lot of noise, throw things, and generally try to scare you into leaving the area without actually causing harm, but may resort to violence if you ignore the warnings. They are capable of popping in and out and can show up most anywhere, including at your house. Interesting enough, this little trick appears to be something of a learned behavior. It requires practice on their part to perfect it, and sometimes, when they are learning, they botch the process, which results in some sort of tear in the fabric of our physical reality, thus resulting in tear smells bad, kind of like singed wet dog mixed with methane and musk. The odor is short-lived and is not as noxious as the smell that the Type 1s give off. Type 2s are capable of communicating telepathically, often called mind speak, and can also bend light to camouflage themselves, resulting in an observer only seeing a moving shimmer of air when they are close. Orbs of light are often seen before and after their appearance. These seem to be a type of energetic vehicle for them. Type 2s are the ones most often encountered and interacted with. From what I can tell, 90% of my own experiences are with this type. Type 3 are evolved, very evolved. They tend to stay in an energetic state most of the time and when they're on our side of the curtain, and when they do step down into our physical reality, their physical appearance often fades in and out repeatedly. They communicate with humans telepathically and are capable of manipulating our physical environment without any evidence that they are physically present within it. As mentioned, the Type 2s will bend light to camouflage themselves, resulting in a shimmer that can be seen. Type 3s can be standing right in front of you in broad daylight and you'll never know they are there unless they want you to. Type 3s are often responsible for eyewitness reports where there are ground-shaking noises right in front of them with no visible cause. I've experienced this firsthand. Trees, rocks, water, and other physical objects being moved, thrown, or otherwise manipulated with no visible source, and thoughts or visions that are not their own suddenly appearing in their mind. As mentioned, Type 2s are also capable of telepathic communication, but their communications seem to be rather short and to the point, such as, leave now, although they do sometimes seem to share more extensive knowledge and information. The telepathic communications of Type 3s can be much more complex. My main reason for sharing this particular information about the different types of the big people is because when someone has an encounter with one of these beings, they tend to use it as a yardstick for comparing to encounters reported by other people. And when 2 different people report 2 different separate incidents with what they consider to be the same beings, maybe one benign and one benevolent, and the other violent and frightening. The tendency is sometimes for each of the experiences to label the other's account as invalid because it is in more polar opposition to their own. However, if your viewers understand that there is actually a valid and logical reason for some of the extreme differences in their encounters, that knowledge could provide a mechanism for actually strengthening the support system of the community that is gathering as a result of your channel. Enabling these good people to widen their belief of and acceptance of each other's stories, where there might otherwise be doubt and skepticism. Unity and trust equals strength, and that is what we need. I hope that this information may help to increase both for the ever-expanding group of people who are finding themselves here, sharing their stories, and returning again and again to learn of other people's experiences. As I mentioned above, 99% of my experiences with what I have termed the Type 2 variety of these beings are with what I have termed the Type 2 variety of these beings. Of all these experiences, I've only had one pitch a big fit at me on 2 separate occasions, but at that same location. Screaming, roaring, stomping, and breaking branches over the span of about 5 minutes made up the bulk of the big tantrums, of both tantrums, at a distance of about 100 feet from where I'd set up for the evening. As a side note, I should mention that on these treks of mine into remote areas, I go alone. Never take a weapon or anything that can be construed as a threat. And while I used to take my dog with me, I now leave him at home, as his protectiveness is extreme, and his behavior is a detriment to my ability to gather information, as these beings tend to shy away from his rabid barking and growling. I know what you're thinking, and it's probably something along the lines of how stupid my behavior is, but bear with me. Just like you, I want to know why we're being lied to. I want to get to the root of what is really going on and what these beings are really all about, and I'm not going to get the truthful answers from the safety of my own living room while reading a book or watching mindless crap on the TV. For me, the only way to get these answers is to go after them. And if that means sitting in the dark woods alone, then so be it. The risk is proportional to the reward, and I'm okay with that. Anyway, back to my 2 experiences that include the temper tantrums on both occasions. I decided that the display was more of a bluff than anything, so I elected to stay put. I drive a 94 Jeep Wrangler YJ, outfitted specifically for these excursions into remote areas. I have brackets mounted on all the way around the Jeep which hold game cams. They're not really there for the purpose of capturing evidence, especially since the big people have a talent for avoiding our IR, but instead are intended to record any unfortunate incident that may lead to my disappearance or demise. And because of this, when I'm out at night, I try to stay within range of the cameras. Now that sounds a little morbid, but as I said, I'm aware of the risks and I'm okay with that. The first of these tantrums took place on the night of July 28, 2019, and was obnoxious enough that a group of deer, white-tailed does, ran out of the woods and elected to huddle close to my Jeep, 35 feet from where I was standing, instead of remaining in the trees. At that time, I was taking my dog with me when I went out, and despite his barking and snarling, they remained there for almost 5 full minutes, all staring fixatedly in the direction of the noises coming from the woods, until they finally decided to run in the opposite direction. This is a singular and extreme incident. I'd never before or since had deer do this, and it still puzzles me. The second tantrum occurred on the night of September 18, 2019, at the same location. The fit started about 30 minutes before sunset, while I was setting my stuff up for the evening. The roaring, stomping, and breaking branches didn't last long, less than 5 minutes, but my visitor stuck around for the duration of the evening, his presence made evident by an occasional grunt, regular footfalls, and the stealthy snapping of twigs in the woods on the side of the Jeep opposite where I was sitting. Hours later, I began to pack things up and remove the game cams from the brackets on the Jeep. I could feel that he was still there, hidden in the tree line, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a little unnerving to have to turn my back to him while I shut the cameras down and pulled them off their brackets, because the distance between me and him and the edge of the woods was only about 75 feet. Interestingly enough, it seems that he understood exactly what I was doing and began to pop in as I reached up to turn the last camera off. Consequently, the last picture that camera recorded before I opened the front of it and reached inside to slide the operating button to the off position shows my hair in the left foreground of the frame and clear, but only partially materialized forehead, brow ridge, eye sockets, and bridge of nose in the background facing my direction. I'm including both the original picture. Pay no attention to the date stamp. I continually forget to update the settings when I run the batteries down, and a crop of the partially materialized face so that folks can get an idea of how these beings appear when they are in between states, in the hopes that it might help someone else if they have seen or experienced something similar and not sure what they witnessed. My goal was to try and share some information without getting too long-winded, and so I'll end here. I have plenty of other experiences and information along these same lines that I would be happy to send you if you and your viewers feel it may be helpful, including info on the UFO Sasquatch connection. Yes, they are connected. Thoughts about how the impending government disclosure movement is going to go down, which isn't good. Information about why military and law enforcement people react with such fear to these beings, and a bunch of their other stuff. Thanks to both you and all the courageous people who come here to share their experiences. I truly believe that together we can uncover the truth. With genuine gratitude, Shay Willis. All right, Shay. I really appreciate the time you took to pump that one out. That was a good one. And yeah, what you're doing is probably the answer. I've told lots of people in the past, if they actually if they want proof that these things are real, I've rattled off a handful of places right around here and told every single one of them. All you got to do is go bail up that road or into that valley, go camping, bring a tent, bring some food, light a fire, don't try to be quiet and hang out, and don't bring a gun and go by yourself. It's that easy. That's all you got to do. If you really want confirmation these things are running around, that's all you got to do. And obviously you got to be there at the right time there, or possibly in the right frame of mind that they just might either scare the absolute shit out of you, or possibly just mildly let you know they're there watching your ass. Who knows? I don't know. Am I into doing that? Not really. I go out here all the time anyway, by myself, but I'm usually packing, right? And I usually have some sort of a goal at hand, whether I'm looking for shed antlers or trying to find where a huge buck might be running around, or setting cameras on game trails, which are set for game, and I'm never trying to get a picture of these things. I'm not pursuing these things, but it's good that people you are coming out and sharing what you know openly, and give it or take it or leave it delivery. But either way, it's an interesting topic, right? I'll tell you guys what, the amount of different people that have been getting hold of me and things have been sharing with me are something else. Especially this past couple weeks, it's really been blowing my brain away. And soon I'm going to share a little more. I'm just trying to get a hold of this one person who was having an absolute real bad time, and they needed help, and I haven't heard back from them. And I'm not sure if I was allowed to share with me or not. I think I emailed them back. They didn't say don't share it, but it's pretty personal and it's pretty crazy. So I might share that one fairly soon, and I'm just going to omit names and locations anyways, so that the majority of you understand exactly what's really going on out there in some places, and it's quite alarming. But anyway, look at this water. I can't sit here anymore. We'll be back and I'll share more shortly. That was a hell of a good few shares, wasn't it? Maybe what? So I got Sarah out fly fishing, trying to catch steelhead on a fly. And we're taking turns. This is such a small river, and the pool is crystal clear and small. So we're taking turns, letting her fish a hole, and then we walk down the next hole, and I'll fish the next hole. So while she's fishing this one, I'm going to see if I can get a couple emails shared while we're in this pretty cool place in British Columbia. All she catches, well, I'm sure we're going to hear about it. She probably will too. You know how that always works. This river, this is the Birkenhead River. It's pretty tough. The fish have been taking a beating from society before they get here, so whole other topic. All right, what do we got? Hello from Utah. Please keep anonymous, because our place would not be hard to find through public records. Okay, man, no problem. Okay, all right, let's just say that. All right, thank you for all the hard work you do for our community that you have created for us. It's much appreciated. You are very welcome, and it's all because of you and everybody else out here too. All right. Thank you for the kind words. Our family has property in the blank blank area at the foothills of the south slope of the Uinta Mountains. As in Tada, Utada. All right. Anyway, we're about 10-15 miles a crow flies from Skinwalker Ranch. We've been out there for over 20 years now and use the property as a vacation getaway spot. On a few rare occasions, I've experienced some high strangeness. Just last summer around 11 p.m., I was walking my wife and her sister to the bathrooms. As clear as day, we heard a knocking sound from the bunkhouse we were building that weekend. Everyone else was on the other side of the property. I thought, wow, this takes a serious set of big brass ones to walk onto our property in the dark and try to spook us as a prank. Everyone out in this neck of the woods is usually armed, and this is a foolish way to end up getting shot. Needless to say, everyone blew it off as teenagers messing with us, but this just didn't make any sense. We were a good mile from our nearest neighbor. Any vehicle would be heard coming from a long ways away. Gotta keep an eye on them. My sisters and girls ended up sleeping with us in our trailer that night, something they never do because they've had their own bunkhouse my father-in-law and I built for them. Another time, my wife's other sister was awakened to a red light that lit up the entire area. It lasted about 25 minutes, but it was just damn strange. Last summer, my father-in-law and I was out there, and without saying a word to each other, we knew there was a presence outside the trailer late at night. He, being in his 70s now, has to use the little boy's tree throughout the night, so I grabbed my gun as he grabbed his. No words exchanged, but we just knew that something or someone was out there. We have seen numerous strange lights at night. The last time, the light seemed to drop from high altitude to within 500 yards away and a couple hundred feet up in the span of a second. Somehow, I knew it was aware of me and my attention to it. I bailed back inside and stayed awake till dawn. Don't get me wrong, 99% of the time this place is our nirvana, but every once in a while weird shit happens. I've seen shadows moving on moonlit nights. I've heard the neighbors talk about seeing a Bigfoot-type creature out there, but at the end of the day, I refuse to walk away from home, out in nature. We have native land around us from the Ute Indian tribe. My nephew is half Ute Indian. Do you think it's possible to have the land blessed and protected somehow? We burn sage and cedar before every fire and say our own prayers, ask for protection, and truthfully, no one has been hurt in over 20 years. We've endured a handful of nights with pure dread and fear in our hearts. Any advice will greatly be appreciated. Kerwin. Okay, Kerwin. Thanks for sending that email, man. And I think what you're doing is working. Obviously, I think what you're doing is working. And I also, it's a possibility that those certain times where the fear and dread feelings come into play, I don't know. I can't fully explain it myself accurately yet, but I think different flavors of that feeling could possibly not mean us harm. Possibly. I mean, I'm going to get a little confusing if I try to describe what I'm thinking. But I think from what I understand and what I have, but my gut feeling tells me, is when everything stops dead, when there's no sounds of absolutely anything at all, and you get that feeling of absolute fear, terror, and dread, and a solid feeling that, quote, something bad is about to happen, that's when you need to be concerned, right? Because let's face it, if you listen to a lot of these emails sent into my channel alone, we are getting literally hundreds of people reporting feeling fear and dread, but they're not telling us that everything around them seems to stop. And a lot of people are getting the words "leave now" put into their brains as well, too, right? And that's actually a safe thing. If something's telling you to leave now, you're good. They're not going to do anything to you, unless you don't leave. Probably, who knows, right? But I'm no expert, man. But if your family's been there that long and nobody's been hurt, and you've been doing your prayers, I'm pretty certain that what you're doing is working, right? And just keep going with your gut. And like you said, don't abandon the place if you don't want to. You got love in that dirt. Keep it. Stay there. Just learn how to manage being alongside of these unknown beings. But where your ranch is situated, I understand there is possibly a multitude of variations of different beings repping around there at times. There's some very unknown, bizarre things going on at that ranch you mentioned, right? And everybody knows about that one. So you're going to have to go with your gut instincts on every single decision you make. That is ultimately our gut instincts are what we look to for direction, above what anybody says, right? So be safe and listen to your gut, no matter what. I don't hear any screaming yet. Screaming as in fish on screaming. Steve, ask people if they have ever seen something like this. I was in the woods looking for ginseng, just standing looking around, and it came walking right in front of me about 4 or 5 feet. So I got a real good look. Could see hands, feet, legs, torso, head. It stopped at an angle to the left of me, like this whole body was shimmering, or like when you see heat coming off the top of a tin roof. I could see through it, but what behind it was blurry. Just stood there looking for about a minute, then it turned its head and looked at me, so I just looked forward, stood there about 10 seconds, and walked away. Craziest thing I've ever seen, Brian. That does sound crazy, Brian, but fortunately, you're not alone. Lots of people seeing the same thing. And I'm not a big fan. I don't have the craving to see that myself, that's for sure. But again, there's that woman you can find her online. She videotaped that same thing you saw going through the bush when she was in a tree stand. How do you explain that one? At this point of the game, I haven't a clue. Haven't a clue. Definitely some crazy skills that we don't have, right? Olympic Peninsula, Washington State. Hi, Steve. My co-worker's father was a Washington State trooper, now retired. He worked in Jefferson County in the Olympic Peninsula of Washington State. In 1982, he's driving about 10 miles south of Kalaloch Lodge on the U.S. Route 101 in the vicinity of the Queets River. It was the night of full moon, and he was driving with his headlights turned off. Why, I don't know. When he rounded a corner of the highway, he turned his headlights back on. What he witnessed in front of his car was a creature striding across the U.S. Route 101 in only a couple of steps, passing right beside a road sign. He took note that the creature was as tall as the sign. When he returned to the scene the next day to measure the sign, he discovered the sign was 8 feet tall. I told this story to a friend of mine in the spring a couple years ago, and my friend subsequently ended up going to Hurricane Ridge in the Olympic National Park in the summer. He was at the park to view astronomy and ended up discussing astronomy with a National Park ranger. He happened to ask the ranger if there were reports of Sasquatches in the Olympic National Forest, since my story was still fairly fresh in my friend's mind. The ranger mentioned to my friend that there are areas of the Olympic National Forest which are avoided due to Sasquatch presence, but there are no official written policies regarding the matter. Best wishes, and thanks for all that you do, Jeff. Right on, Jeff. Thanks for that, man. Appreciate it. And as you know, you're not alone, man. There's so many people writing in with the exact same things. There's so much coming in. One more. Hello, Steve. My name is James Fox, but I go by Jamie. I'm 68 years old, and I am 68 years old, and I was born in Colorado. I've hunted my whole life in Utah, Colorado, California, Oklahoma. I just watched a show in which you played a sound that you never heard before. The strange thing is my boys and I stumbled on making that noise when hunting above 10,000 feet. We're in there in the Uinta mountain range, north of Utah. Coincidence, right? How many times are we going to hear those mountains named in sightings? We're in the wilderness area west of Flaming George Lake. My boys and I thought it'd be cool to see who could skip a rock the farthest on the large frozen lake near the timberline. When a rock hit the surface, it made the sound you played as it skipped across the ice. The sound varied depending on the size of the rock and how far you threw them. We did this until it was time to get to camp. I also made a similar sound when I used a lawn pole to knock the ice off the power lines so the line would not break from all the weight. Then the sound would change as the heavier chunks of ice broke free. I also want to share something about the sounds you have played off Sasquatch sounds. If I really knew the sound I heard at night was Sasquatch, I most likely would have gotten out of there. It sounds silly, but I just figured it came off a pissed off badger. I've ran into a few badgers and they can be mean and loud, and the way they sound carries at night. I just figured it was nature. I am going to share something after this as to why these things exist. Take care, my Gentile friend. Okay, man. Thank you very much for sending that one in to us. Appreciate it. Appreciate the time you take to do this. Appreciate everybody and the time it takes them to do this.